Michael Hurst, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Kia ora. How are you?
Good. I can't believe this is the first time we've met in real life. You and I were practically neighbours for like 15, 20 years.
So it seems, yeah. But I never saw you running past.
We were like maybe 100 metres apart.
Right.
I was just up the street from you. I'd pass your house every day on the way to the Countdown supermarket. Sometimes you'd be out on your chair on the front deck, reading shirtless. Other times I'd hear you singing from an open window.
Actually, that's one of the sitting on those particular front steps in the sun on a summer's afternoon with a book and a beer. That's probably the one thing I'll miss most about, because we just moved from that place there for 28 years, which is quite significant. But yeah, that was the thing I would default to. End of the day, go and sit with the book. And sit in the sun, beautiful. Yeah.
By the way, is that kind of we'll talk about that house for a little bit because the house that I was at just up the road from you on the sort of cross intersection.
Yeah.
I had that for like 20 years, and I went through a lot there. And then when I left, it was quite a sad occasion actually. But I had to remind myself that memories are something you keep internally, and the house doesn't actually keep them, but. Yeah, for you and your wife Jennifer, you had your two kids, and they were home births as well. The kids were born.
Yeah, X marks the spot, or did mark the spot.
Yeah,
born in the living room. 28 years we were there, but the thing is, we had decided some years back, maybe 2 years back, probably a bit longer. I'd planted the seed of, hey, what are we going to be doing in the next decade? Because as you get older, you start thinking it's not that I'm afraid of getting old. I'm loving it. But, they are interesting years, aren't they? That between 60 and 70 is a lot different to between 50 and 60 or 40 and 50 and so on. So, and I planted the idea that we should probably get a place that, less, not wood, not made of wood,
Stairs?
No stairs, and low maintenance. And then, we were thinking about it for a while, and then Jennifer, who's really canny at this stuff, she saw this apartment on the plans, and we went and had a look and realised that one wasn't going to be big enough, so we bought two side by side and turned them into one. But the point that I'm getting to is that we were already leaving the house kind of 9 months before we left. We'd already so we had a long extraction, a long goodbye, and as you say, all the memories are still intact, and we had a really full life, full family memories, and lots of occasions in that place. So it was relatively straightforward. I lucked out because when we actually put it on auction, I had to go and make a film in Perth, so I wasn't there for any of the open homes or any of that stuff. So as luck would have it, but as I said to Jennifer, it's work, Jennifer. I was in a film, and then I came back, and then I had to go and perform in a show in Wellington for 3 weeks while they moved, so I missed out on the move as well. So exactly.
You're a terrible human being.
I am. I'm not really. I've made up for it. I've put my hand up. I'll be the Body Corp representative for the flat.
Oh, good luck with that. You're gonna regret that. I'm on the Body Corp committee here. The amount of like WhatsApp group messages about someone needs to spend $110 on some screws or a lockbox or whatever it is, and every purchase has to be
I know. Well, that's coming. We haven't had our first meeting yet, but I've in all fairness, I had to say, look, I need to do that because I missed out on all that other stuff. But so we moved. We're happy. We don't regret anything.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's great.
Look forward.
And is it weird for you when there's someone like me that lives like 100 metres up the road, and I know who you are, and I know what you're doing on your front deck, and you've got no idea who I am?
Well, that's sort of the way life has been for me. Really, you sort of get used to it. Actually, I saw Jimmy Carr, the comedian, the other day. It was a little clip, and someone said, "What's it like being famous?" He said, "It's great." He said, "It's lovely. It's like living in a village, and you're the only one that's got Alzheimer's," which is sort of segues into the play we're doing, I suppose, because they all know me, but I don't know anybody else. And you sort of go, yeah, in some ways that's part of the life I've had, because I do get seen by a lot of people on stage, on film, TV. Though, really, I never worry about it.
Yeah, with you and what you do, is it more a case of people see you and they're like, I know that guy from somewhere?
Yeah, pretty much.
You've got one of those faces. Or
I have got one of those faces, and I know, years ago when I first got the the job in Hercules in the 90s. I mean, that went from nothing to quite a big thing. And I remember going to the States, and I was there at Universal Pictures one day doing some editing on it because I'd been directing. And this editor said, "Oh, Michael, you must get recognised all the time." I said, "In fact, no, I don't." And he said, "Come on, you must." And I said, "Okay, I'll make a bet with you." And we stood outside the editing room on Universal Studios and watched an entire one of those sort of wagon trains of tourists that do the tour around the lot. And they're all coming past. And I said, "Watch this." And I stood right out in front of them and I waved at everybody. And the show was a bit of a hit at that point, you know. Nobody recognised me whatsoever.
But were you costumed up though?
Well, no, of course not. Well, they'd have, even then, if I'd have been in a costume, they'd have thought I was some other actor pretending to be me, wouldn't they?
I don't know, if you were waving a sword around. But
yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those things. I've never really... And yet sometimes other people, you know, the Occidental in Vulcan Lane, the pub there, the Belgian beer pub. I went in there one day, and this big guy... I don't know whether he's Belgian or German or whatever, but he went, "It's you! It's you!" And I went, "What?" He said, "It's you! You are on Hercules! Totally got it. And couldn't believe that I was just walking around having a beer. Couldn't believe it. Just thought it was like outrageous. Thought I should be... I mean, most people think that about in New Zealand. In New Zealand, they don't care. You can, honestly, fame... I mean, for me anyway, I remember things like I once got a fan letter which was addressed to Lawless, that's my character, Lawless, Auckland. And I got the letter.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and another time I remember I was, this was great, we'd been in a fan convention, because I still do those, in LA, this was early 2000s, and we'd been in Pasadena, and there was a crowd of thousands of people, and they, at these things, you can do anything. They love you, you know, because it's all elevated, and you really have to keep a lid on it. Keep it in a box, you know. Anyway, lots of adulation for a whole weekend, thousands of people. The following weekend, I was at the Helensville A&P show, and I decided I was returning a favour we'd used somewhere as a location. So I was there to sign autographs. So a week after this big thing, I go there, I walk up, and it's the middle of the Scottish dancing Highland fling heats or something, and there's a guy on the microphone, he's going, "This is Fiona," bloody whatever her name is, "Fiona, she's just done," "Oh, hang on a minute, I've just got a note here. Oh, look, Michael Hurst is here. Where are you, Mike? Oh, there he is. He'll be coming in, he'll be sitting down here, he'll be signing a few autographs. Right, here's young Sharon Wellesby, she's from the..." And then the thing, everybody was interested in the dancing. Yeah. I'm sitting there at this bloody table with all this white paper on it, and all these felt pens, and no one came up. Meanwhile, the Scottish dancing was going on. So I started doodling and signing my own name. I was really, you know... And I just, a week before, I've been, you know, worshipped, as it were. Anyway, on the fence, Māori guy, youngish guy, looking at me, giving the odd eyebrow flick, and then finally I acknowledged him, and he went, "Hey, Michael." I went, "Yep." He went, "What are you famous for?" And I went, "There we are. I am back in Aotearoa, and that's a good thing."
How good.
What are you famous for?
Yeah, it's hard to not keep your feet on the ground, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about with you, with the Michael Hurst story. Like you mentioned your wife Jennifer a couple of times early on, and that's Jennifer Ward Lealand, who's the Kiwibank New Zealander of the Year a couple of years ago. Also, full disclosure, I was a massive fan of hers as a teenage boy when she was in the front lawn.
The front lawn,
with Don McGlashan. Incredible stuff.
Great time. That was the 80s. That was a special time for us. Yeah.
An incredible relationship and marriage that you guys have got. So we'll get into that. The Hercules stuff as well. We'll get into that. So that was the impact a show like that has. It's insane, eh? It's incredible.
Well, you know, I don't think it was as big here. Well, I know it wasn't as big here as it was everywhere else. And I still get fan mail. I still get from places, you know, in South America or Eastern Europe or somewhere. And, of course, the big thing for me was once it got traction, it was a huge life change. I mean, it bought me a house. It really shifted my entire life on that level. You know, I was able to save some money. And then the other thing that happened for me was I got to direct a whole bunch of those shows. And I don't think people, I don't know if they realise or not, how big they were. These were big shows, millions of dollars. They had, You know, we had 5 different studios all around the town. They leased a whole lot of land out west, Sturgis Road, and it was basically an ex-farm, and they put roads in and built villages and millions of dollars and lots of infrastructure, cameras, big 35mm cameras. So consequently, I learnt to do these enormous shows at a fast pace, fast turnaround television. And, you know, sometimes we'd have 5 cameras and cranes. In the days when a camera on a crane meant also 2 people on the crane as well to operate it. Because this whole, you know, digital operating and cameras, hotheads and all of that wasn't around then. That was brand new. Yeah, and so I cut my teeth on, you know, really learnt to do this. So nothing really phases me now.
Right.
I mean,
well, that explains a lot, because, you did say earlier on that you sold the house and you bought like 2 apartments instead. And I'd hate for anyone listening to thinking, well, I must get into doing plays.
Yeah.
There's good money.
Yeah, well, the plays, I mean, I love theatre. It's the thing I started with. It's the thing I go back to all the time. It's the thing I do mostly. If I could do theatre all the time, I would. But the reality is that, you know, you would not be able to make the living I make in the television world, in the theatre world, especially in New Zealand. You know, that's a whole other issue, how it seems to have been sort of, it doesn't get taken seriously, I don't think, enough, theatre in this country, but that's just me. But so it's good. I direct TV so I can afford to do plays, I suppose. A sad state of affairs. I think most actors probably do that, you know.
Yeah, you love it, eh?
Yeah,
and it has been very good to you as well. And that's part of the reason you're here today, that you've got a brand new play called In Other Words.
That's right.
Which is just you and your wife Jennifer on stage together.
Yes, it is, for the first time, actually. We have been in plays before, but we've never just been in a two-hander, you know, with the 2 of us. And there was a play we did in, 2003 or 4 called The Goat at Silo, which a lot of people will remember, and it's one of the best plays ever written, best modern plays, Edward Albee. And although there were 4 people in that play, Jennifer and I played the married couple, and it was, you know, very close to the bone because we're married. And it's like this one too, the fact that we're married and have been married and have had a relationship for so long, already we've only been rehearsing it for a couple of days. We've already been right through the whole play, and we can see these habits and relationships. And it's going to be, I think it'll be a good play. I know it's a good play because I read it and I just thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, and how do you find that working together? Who sort of takes the lead of boss or controller?
Oh, me. No. I said that with a straight face. Look, it's give and take. We get asked this quite a lot, actually. How do we work together? Well, we trained. We have the same work ethic, I think. And when we were young, when I was 25, I met Jennifer when she was 20, and she was a student, or she just graduated from Theatre Corporate Drama School. Theatre Corporate was a theatre group, professional theatre group, founded by Raymond Hawthorne in the mid-70s, and it lasted till 1986, and it was an unbelievable training ground for us. The company, we just kept working. I had 5 years of working there. And the work ethic is always about the show first, actors second. Your performance is only a step among other steps to make a show. And proper technique, proper theatre technique, which sadly is lacking these days. There's no other way to describe it. You know, how to make an entrance, how to actually do the thing that audiences don't realise is being done to them, which is a big deal. A lot of acting craft, hundreds and thousands of years of build up to this craft. You know, it's not something you take lightly. And anyway, so we have the same ethic and the same methods and the same sense of punctuality, and we don't like mucking around. I can't stand mucking around. You know, rehearsal, let's go, let's work. Call it what it is. It's not just faffing about in funny costumes. So, and that in that way, we critique each other quite a lot, because you can sort of, it takes one to know one. You know what I mean? So I can see bullshit if it's bullshit, and so can she. So we just do that.
There's that mutual respect as well. So I suppose you can both get away with it, and
we respect. Well, I mean, I think part of the I think one of the things that's good about Jennifer and me is we actually like each other's work. It would be terrible if I thought she was a naff actress and not a very good actress, or you know. But she's fantastic and she's a great singer, you know. And so we just it's fairly even. In fact, we asked a couple of people if they direct this play, but it's subject matter. It's about dementia. It's not. I hasten to say it is not a depressing play. It is an uplifting, amazing, emotionally beautiful play dealing with a serious problem. And see, there we go. It's about dementia, and I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Howard, by the way, we'll get into aging soon because you're 66. You look bloody remarkable, by the way.
Oh, well, thanks very much.
And I see you on your bike from time to time.
Yeah. Got the bike.
Often singing while you're riding. It is worth putting out. It's an e-bike though, so it's minimal pedaling.
Oh, no. I still get a sweat up because I go bloody fast, and I do have all the dials up, but I go fast. You know, I don't like. It's me. For me, I always think things like showers and stairs get in the way of life. You know, they slow you up. Yeah. I hate having showers. I just want to get in and out, and I can't. Anyway, that's a whole other question.
Yeah. So in other words, you play a married couple that and
I get on set. I get dementia.
Yeah, and you start young and you age through the.
Well, this is the thing. It's interesting. They say that in the script. You know, they age before our eyes. This script is quite a new script. That's what I was going to say. The other people we asked to direct it, they've both got people in their lives with dementia, and it's just too hard for them. So that's why. So we thought, let's just do it ourselves with our producer, Callum, who's a lovely guy. So the three of us, that's how we're working. But yeah, it starts off. It's what I love about the play is it's not like, oh, let's take them through their lives. We actually talk to the audience, and we have this sort of existence outside of it. So we can, it's like, hey, remember when we did this? And we might act a bit of that. And you can get to a point where there might be a sticky piece coming where, say, we first start noticing that I forget things. Or it might be the part where there's a moment where he doesn't recognise his wife, which is incredibly moving. And I'll say to Jennifer, oh, I'm really sorry about this bit. That's really hard. And she'd, yeah, it was hard. Oh, well, and then we go and do it. So there's a commenting level on it, which I think's really smart. It's so moving. And yeah, it gets tricky. When I read it, I actually cried when I read this the first time, which is because I couldn't help imagining what Jennifer would have to deal with if I really did start losing my mind and she had to become the carer, something she sort of didn't sign up for, but when you get married, you do sign up for that. And I found that very moving. And of course, I can't act that in the show, because in the show, I'm happy because I'm
delirious.
I'm delusional, and I can't play the end of the show in my performance. So I have to get past that.
You said you cried when you read the script. Are you quite an emotional guy? You said you weren't too emotional about leaving the house that you're in.
No, but I am. Well, that's because we dealt with it. You know? No, I am an emotional person. I don't think you can be an actor and not be emotional, because it's not just about feeling things. I mean, you have to act, but emotional recall, and for me, it's more physical than anything. Although the memory of the birth of my two sons is pretty powerful, and that does give me an enormous amount emotional well. But more often than not, for me, to get into that state, it's a physical thing. What does your body do when you are, upset or angry? And I always go back to childhood, because usually that's where it's all laid down. And I know when I was little and I things were just unfair. It was always about that for some reason. And I can remember what my body did. My face.
Well, the chin. My chin used to go first.
All this goes dry. And then before you know it, physically, you start to bring that up, and then you need to place that where you need it. I suppose other people get there by recalling in a therapy way. I just think that's a bit scattered for me, because it means you end up, it's not as controlled, and I think acting's about controlled chaos. Yeah, not chaos.
Okay, so you just touched upon your childhood. Let's go back there and talk about that. So you're born in the UK. You moved to New Zealand at 8.
8 years old, 1966.
What are your memories of that time, that transition time, but from being a kid in the UK to moving to Christchurch as an 8-year-old?
Well, so where I came from in St Helens, which is near Liverpool in the north of England, if you can stretch, any listeners, viewers, if you can imagine Coronation Street when it was in black and white back in the day, those miserable streets with all the smoke, I lived in that. So I went from sooty grime, north of England, houses built, terraced houses and grimy streets, slums basically, that have been there for 50, 80, 90 years, I moved from that to Christchurch. So I went from a school in England where the playground was asphalt with brick walls around it, and in the top of the brick walls, embedded in concrete and cement, were broken bottles to stop people climbing over. That's how they used to do it. Wow. I went from that to open rugby fields, to Elmwood Normal School in Christchurch, flat, open, skies, blue, wooden houses, everything wooden, and all the space. Couldn't believe it. That was my first big memory. It was amazing to me, and I remember that. I remember some grief about leaving, but I don't know. It was a big shift. We came on a plane, which was unusual in those days. Three days in a DC-8. Took us 3 days to get here, and yeah.
God, for an 8-year-old, that must feel like a lifetime.
It does. It's hard to. That was the biggest thing: the space and the fact that it did feel old. It did feel. When I say old-fashioned, I felt a lot of that stuff drop away that big cities have, because there wasn't that. I mean, back then it still took 6 weeks for anything to get here by mail, because it mostly came by ship.
Yeah.
Remember TV was 6 months behind. Everything was behind. All the fashions the magazines would arrive, and then the fashion would arrive, and everything was behind. And I guess over my life, I've seen things rev up.
And being going through the school system here in New Zealand as the last couple of years of primary school, then intermediate, then Papanui High School. What was that like, being a kid from the UK with an English accent?
At the beginning, it was not good. I was a very small, blonde-haired, white-skinned. People used to sort of pick on me a bit, and so I lost my accent pretty quickly, because my accent was like that. I'd flat as a pancake, talk like that all the time. My mum, my dad, they all talk like that. I go back and it's like that. But I'm a mimic. Most actors have a good mimic ability, and so I can hear accents really quickly. So that served me well, because I lost it really quickly. I got brown, sunburned actually. Those are the days when the way to toughen up your skin for the sun was to get burnt on the first chance you could get and toughen it up. But and then after that I just went through the school system. I mean, I loved my high school years. Luckily, Papanui High had a bit of a tough reputation. And I didn't bother, when I went from intermediate, applying for Christchurch Boys High or any of those, because I wanted to be in the top stream. I just knew my dad had always told me, you go to bloody university. And so it was in my blood, and I wanted that. And I figured, quite smartly I think, that I'd have a better chance of getting in the top stream at Papanui High than I would at one of the more competitive ones. I guess that was my reasoning. And as it happened, I did get into the top stream at the same time as a whole bunch of new teachers arrived, who were all hell-bent on new teaching. And so I got this ride through the high school years of amazing teachers. I had a fantastic time at Papanui. And then, of course, you look at it, people ask me, when did you want to be an actor? Well, I never thought about being an actor at any of that time, except that, if you look at it, I was a champion fencer, so I won the Canterbury foil fencing championships and all of that, so that was one thing. First in English, debating prize, public speaking prize. What else was I going to be? It seems like I was unconsciously preparing all these skills. And I did a few productions and things, but I really just wanted to go to university. And So I stayed right through to the 7th form, last year at school, year 12 or whatever it is. And then I went to university, to Canterbury University, and during that first year, I got the part of Paddington Bear in the Canterbury Children Repertory Society's, whatever it is, production of Paddington Bear. Big suit, big padding. I mean, it nearly killed me, as I recall. But someone came to see it from the Court Theatre, which is a professional theatre in Christchurch, and on the strength of this weird performance, asked me to go and audition. And that's how that started. So it really wasn't until I'd left school that it became apparent to me that I could do this. So, but yeah, high school was fantastic for me.
Yeah, in hindsight, having to blend in and change your accent to like be a Kiwi, is that where it all sort of started, do you think?
I don't know. I was always a bit of a show off. I don't know. Always, you know, I was always one of the things. Good actors can tell jokes, I think, or good joke tellers could make actors. I was always good at telling jokes. My dad always was brilliant at telling jokes, and it was a thing that I really liked doing. So I did have a sort of show-off ability, and I was making up, I guess, for being the shortest person in the room generally. I went through a Christian phase and became the best at that. I was really good at it. I spoke, I spoke in tongues, and I did all of it, you know, better than anybody, because that was just the way. So, and then if you think about it, a lot of that is acting. It's all acting. It's all hysterical stuff, you know. I mean, and so yeah, I did all of that. I was part of the Commonwealth Games Christian Outreach 1974, and we would go and we would turn up at these events outside the Commonwealth Games in Christchurch at that time, and we'd all been trained, and we would arrive with sort of like a truck van thing. The side would fall down. They'd set up the band, Christian band, Jesus loves you, Jesus, and all that nonsense. And we would lurk around the outside with our Bibles. I've still got the Bible. And you'd spot someone, you know, you'd see if they'd been moved by the Lord, by the Spirit. You know, you might see them start shedding a tear or whatever it is. We did training in this, honestly. The games Christian Outreach. So you spot someone that looks like they've been moved by the Spirit. You go up and you go, do you know the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Saviour? Would you like to? I mean, it sounds so silly.
Oh my God.
But we did, but we did that. I did that. So, yeah, I mean, I did all of that. And then, of course, the theatre came along, and I went from sort of the church to the dirty church, which is kind of, because theatre is based on it's religious. It's based on spiritual stuff. It's a communion. It just hasn't got the nonsense in it.
And what about you're obsessed with Shakespeare, right? Where did your love of Shakespeare?
Yeah.
Is obsessed an unfair word?
Well, no, not an unfair word.
Where did that begin?
Comparatively, well, I'm trying to pinpoint it. Yeah, that's a tricky one. I know that in the 4th form. So what's that? I'm sorry.
Like 14, 15.
I'm a boomer. That's why I'm.
Oh, you mean year
second year in high school. Yeah. Our teacher, Alan Bunn, who I am eternally grateful, one of the ones that I'm eternally grateful to for his teaching. He actually had a small spear-carrying part in a production of King Lear at the Court Theatre, as I say, professional theatre in Christchurch. This was in 1972. And so we all went along from the class. And, oh my God, it was unbelievable. I don't know if it was a really good production. What I do know, though, is that then the theatre was basically in a room, the old courtrooms. It was just a big living room, really. So really close to the action, the audience, and there was no difference. And I just remember King Lear standing literally next to me, like as if he's here next to the chair, with his arms stretched out above my head, going, blow winds and crack your cheeks. And I'm going, holy shit, this stuff. And then there was a guy having his eyes ripped out, and it was unbelievably physical and visceral, you know. And I remember Alan Bunn standing there as the Duke of Burgundy, I think, you know, and I was overwhelmed by it. And then I never really thought about it much, but then later in the 6th form, so second to last year, year 11, whatever it is, we went and saw Roman Polanski's film of Macbeth, which, of course, for boys, it's pretty amazing because there's Francesca Annis as Lady Macbeth, totally naked in the sleepwalking scene. Ooh, so there were boobs. But then, what struck me, and this is a memory I really treasure. There's a scene at the beginning of Macbeth where, after the witches, where the king comes in with Malcolm and his sons, and they see this sergeant covered in blood. And the king says, "What bloody man is that?" And the son says, "This is the sergeant." And the sergeant can tell us the story of what Macbeth's been doing. And he talks about brave Macbeth, how amazing he was, and tells about this battle. And in the battle, he says he kept pushing, and didn't stop until he had split the fellow from the nave to the chops. Meaning he'd cut him from the balls right through to the, And in this speech, on screen, in Polanski's version, they're all standing around on the beach looking like real men, proper, fully, realised medieval men. And when he said that, split him from the nave to the chops, they all burst out laughing. But ha! And I went, they are laughing at a real joke. This is a real joke. It's real. It's it's red-blooded, as it were. It's completely in your face, and it's not lofty or removed. And I remember going, this is fantastic. And that's what I've always looked for ever since in Shakespeare, is that reality of it. Because it's not lofty and aloof. It is poetic. It is profound. It has all those things in it. But it's just really real, That's what he's famous for. So, and I remember it very clearly. And then after that, it became a mystery to me. What is this Shakespeare thing? And then at the court, when I did join the court as a trainee for 2 years, and this director Elric Hooper came down and did a production of Othello, and I was just a spear carrier, and I still remember the lines. It was just a messenger coming in, but I practiced, and on that one speech, it's only about 10 lines, I was able to practice all the stuff that I was being taught, and I went, wow, this really is right, it works. So yeah, that's kind of how it worked. And ever since then, I've played Hamlet twice and played Macbeth twice. I've played King Lear. I've played the Fool twice. I've directed Macbeth and Hamlet. I've directed Othello. I've directed Romeo and Juliet and Twelfth Night and As You Like It, and I've just been in lots of things.
You're
and I love it.
You're like a hardcore fan.
Yeah, and I would keep doing it, and I think we should do it. I think people should be exposed to it.
If Shakespeare was at like a Comic-Con or something, you'd be there getting his autograph.
Look, if Shakespeare was alive today, he'd be writing for Netflix, and he'd be their best writer. I always keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Don't think of it as old fuddy-duddy. Think of it as fucking passionate and.
Well, it stood the test of time. I'm almost envious of seeing how passionate you are when you talk about it, because I think my experience is probably the same as most people, where you have like a bored, disillusioned teacher that's just doing the curriculum.
I know.
Half-assing it.
I know, and I was the opposite. I had these great teachers, and then I just got into it. I've seen it done, and I've done it, and seen people moved by it, and I've actually done productions where I've held an entire audience of school kids in thrall. They've literally been glued to it because we got the recipe right. It's just about getting that right, and a lot of that comes back to the craft, actually. Because if anybody invented modern acting, I say modern acting, if anybody invented theatre as we know it, it was Shakespeare.
Have you ever had a real job?
Or
have you managed to get to retirement age doing what you love?
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I've never been, and so is Jennifer. We've never done.
Incredible.
I've never been a waiter. Got my first professional gig when I was 18. That's when I joined the Court Theatre, and then just stayed there. 18 to. I moved to Auckland just after my 21st birthday. Joined Theatre Corporate. Stayed there for 3 years. Then became freelance. Had a year of doing a few things. Made a few TV things and made a movie. I think Death Warmed Up, and then I went back to Theatre Corporate, playing lead roles, then the Mercury, then we started the Watershed, then I got Hercules, then came out, then there was Auckland Theatre Company, and we did my own productions for a while, so yeah, it's been constant.
Yeah, and in a country the size of New Zealand, husband and wife doing this, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, I'm lucky.
Yeah,
we're lucky. We're fortunate, and having said that, we work hard. That's we don't sit on our asses that much, and I don't want to either. The older I get, the more I want to learn. In fact, just 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I got this part called a play called An Iliad, which is basically a reduction of Homer's Iliad. It's a guy telling you the story, 2 hours and 20 minutes long, no break, one person. It's like learning a book, and I just went, I'm up for this, and I want more. I want to do that because that is the muscle, the brain muscle.
Yeah, and yeah, I've had like a lot of people of different ages on the podcast, and you talk about retirement and stuff. And if you're doing what you love, then
there is no retirement.
100%. I think it's a healthy way to go.
Do you know there's a line from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. After my Hercules stint, I had to pull out of theatre for a while because it just became too busy. And the first play I did back after doing that TV series for 8 years was this play, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, and I played a character called the Actor. And so suddenly I'm coming, and my first line was to walk on stage, look at the audience and go, an audience. And I'd been missing an audience, it was such a great role. And there's a line in it where he says, do you know what happens to old actors? No, nothing. They're still acting. And that's the truth.
I love
it.
it.
Yeah,
I love it. Hey, you mentioned just before Death Warmed Up, which is your first movie.
Yeah.
Knowing you were coming around today, I did as much research as I could, and there's an old interview on you online, and you talk about this movie. So the story goes, you made the movie, you didn't get to see it beforehand. First time you saw it was on the big screen at a preview.
Yeah.
And then?
And then I thought my career was over. Is the truth. I couldn't. I've thought about this moment a lot. I couldn't relate to the face I was seeing. I mean, anybody that's not in film or television, listening to this, watching this, you have to understand when you see yourself from angles that you can't possibly see yourself from, so from behind, you see the back of your head, it's really disturbing at the beginning. It's like when you hear your voice first as a recorder. Anyway, I just hated it. I'm sorry, David Blythe. I wasn't prepared for what I was seeing. And it was a test audience full of teenagers. And it was at this movie theatre that doesn't exist anymore, halfway down Queen Street, Cinerama, I think. Anyway, and I was so upset by what I'd seen that I just got up at the end and I couldn't talk to anybody, not even Jennifer. And I literally walked out of that movie theatre and walked straight up Queen Street, across Aotea Square. The square wasn't there at that point. The Aotea Centre wasn't there, I should say. And into Myers Park. And I sat on a park bench in Myers Park and I cried. I thought, what the fuck have I done? I really just cried. I was having a bit of a crisis, I think. But as it happens, I then had to go up to the Theatre Corbett, because I was in a play, The Winter's Tale by William Shakespeare. And I was playing Florizel, the prince. Sounds like an air freshener, but anyway. New Florizel. Psst, psst. And I got on stage and I did the Shakespeare and I thought, you know what, I'm going to stay here. And I didn't do any TV or film for ages after that. I was just so... And I think I was just going through something, but the irony is they did a reprint, a brand new print of that film, because it won a prize somewhere in Paris and it has some reputation. And this is a couple of years back and they were screening it at the Hollywood, brand new print, and we were there as guests and I was like, I'm not going to go because I've not seen it since then. I'd not seen it since then.
How many years are we talking?
1983, maybe? Something like that.
Wow,
82.
okay, so like 40 years.
Yeah, I'd not seen it. I'd not seen it. So I thought, I'll go. I've got to bury this. I've got to get past this. So I went to there, and my two sons came, and they're mates, and they all, quite liked it. They didn't have a bad thing to say, really. And I was supposed to go onto a panel afterwards and talk about it, but I'm telling you, I hated it then, and I still hate it.
That's not the end of the story I was expecting. I thought you would have been more gentle on yourself.
No, I couldn't. And there was a poor reporter beforehand who, he just kept asking me questions about how much I'd learnt making it. Well, I could barely remember making the bloody thing. So I just went, nothing. I couldn't answer anything. And on the panel, I couldn't really I had to dodge questions because I just was still going, why did I? Oh, look, it doesn't matter. Let's put it away. We move on from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But could you look at it objectively now and think, oh, okay, you had some acting merit?
Well, that was me trying to look at it objectively. I mean, and I've seen a lot of performances still, because remember, I direct a lot of television and I've directed a lot of American actors and English actors. So I know what acting looks like. And I can forgive myself a few things. I just think the whole thing was just wonky for me. That's all. I look, it was just I wasn't prepared for it. I don't think I realised what it really was, and it took me a while to get over the shock. And it's not. I still look at it now and I go, oh yeah, I've done better things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Hercules stuff. So you touched upon this before. This was a golden time for like international TV. But again, as you said, not as big in New Zealand as overseas. But there was Hercules, young Hercules and Xena, which made Lucy Lawless before that. Like she did an ASB series of ads.
Yeah, she did a few things.
TV.
We did a couple of. Known her since the 80s, and we did a few, the Typhon's People and a couple of dramas, around. Hercules was the initial idea, which Rob Tappert, who's now married to Lucy, so he's partners with Sam Raimi, Evil Dead. So Rob and Sam and Bruce Campbell, who's the star of the original Evil Dead movies back in the 80s, that's how they made their push, because that film, we were watching it, coincidentally, we were watching an illegal print of it while we were shooting Death Warmed Up, which is quite weird, because when I met Rob years later and said, do you know that we were watching this? And he said, who the hell did you get that print from? But so there is a sort of connection there. So they came down here with this Hercules idea, Hercules without togas, Hercules done like we did it, and comedic. And it was part of Universal Pictures Action Pack series. They made, I think, 7 shows. These were the days of syndicated television, so before streaming. And anyway, we were going to make 13. Well, we made 4 one-hour telly movies. I was in the first one, and I died. But then I think they saw some potential there, and so they rewrote it, I believe, and had me come back to life, as you do. The planet goes backwards or something. And then they made, after they made these first 4 movies, they made a 5th one, which is called a bottle show. Bottle shows are where you go, hey, do you remember that time we, and it goes woo woo woo, and they go and they bring an
flashback.
Flashback. So bottle shows in a bottle. So we made one of those about all the 4 movies and strung it together with this funny story with Kevin Sorbo, who was the actor playing Hercules, and myself. And we did a whole lot of shtick that we just did, and that's what I believe got their attention. Hey, there's a series in this. And suddenly we got booked for 13 episodes. And that was when I just thought, honestly, my audition, I thought it was the worst thing I'd ever, the script, it was like, hey, must have been some kind of monster. It was all like that. And I turned up just doing my best John Wayne, hey, Hercules, come over here. But I got the part because I turned up with, I was really fit and buff. I had a singlet on and I had a big metal sword from a Shakespeare play. So, anyway, got the part. We then, Lucy and I, because what happened was she was in an episode, a 3-episode storyline, as this character, Xena. And Rob went, I reckon there's something in that. Sent a whole lot of footage of Lucy in her outfit fighting, and them Universal, they apparently just went, yeah, we want that, and so Xena got picked up just like that.
Yeah, it was a massive hit.
And to its credit, is the one that lasts. It's got way more impact than Hercules ever had. But the day that I realised we were going to be doing a lot of shows, because we made 120 episodes or something, the day it was going to get really picked up, and the day that Lucy got Xena, we both got put on a plane to America, first class, and we're sitting on this plane going, this is so cool. And we got there and we had the full 9 yards, it was all the full, this is what it's going to be like, it's going to be a long-running thing. And it ran for years and years, and got crazier and crazier. And it just, Yeah, it just American money, American rates, got membership of the Screen Actors Guild and the Directors Guild, and it just set us up. It was a very, very. That's when we decided to have kids. So Jennifer and I went, well, this is going to last for 4 years at least. It lasted for 7, I think. So
Incredible.
We had kids. And remember, I was 37 when I started that. A lot of people think I was younger, but no, I had a career. I'd already played all these roles, So it was when it got to the end of it. So I was 44 or something at the end of it. And it's people say, what did you try going to Hollywood? Well, yeah, except I wasn't 20. You know what I mean? I went over there. I got offered some roles in things and some directing opportunities, but they were all things like Xena, Queen of the Jungle and stuff. And I just went, I don't want this. Also, I had kids, and I would still have to be schlepping around LA, and I had this whole career back here. So I just went, you know what? I'm going to do what I really want to do, and that's what I did. I just came back and set myself. And now America comes here. I mean, I'm directing Spartacus, and I've done all these big American shows, and so living my best life, really.
What an opportunity. It's like winning lotto in a way, isn't
and
it?
I will always be grateful to Rob Tappert, who believed in me. And when I looked around and went, I reckon I could direct these, I said, can I direct one? He said, sure. And then gave me the hardest, most computer-generated effects heavy episode that we'd had so far. So I had to learn, like, it was a learning. It wasn't even a curve, it was straight up, and it was just in the deep end. But I made a good fist of it, and he was remarkable. He had me play a pantomime dame in this American TV show, The Widow Twankey, which is based on my mum, because someone had seen me do the show. Oh, you got to put that in. I said, well, I don't know that Americans are going to go for a woman that talks like this, like from Coronation Street. But they loved it, and so he gave me that opportunity, and another producer who worked on the show, Eric Grundeman, who's become a dear friend, and we're godparents to each other's kids. He also just gave me so many opportunities, just backed me, without any. Americans are great like that. They go, here you go, and if you don't make it, well, you don't make it, but you get a chance on your merit. At least these guys were. So I will always be grateful for them. And Rob, I think, single-handedly almost changed the way people view New Zealand, because he decided to move basically a Hollywood-style studio here and build it here. And yes, in those days, the American, I think it was 42 cents to the dollar in favour of the Americans, so they had gazoodles of money. But it meant that all the crews had to step up, all the locals, the stunt industry suddenly had to come really up into the light. The stunties that started on Hercules and Xena, I'm working with them now on Spartacus. They've been all around the world. Al Poppleton, these guys, they've become world, renowned at their jobs, all because of that. And it really kicked it off. All the way the studios are now being built, because we used the old cold stores out in West Auckland, which have now been completely rebuilt as studios. So, a lot went on from those shows, and now, this year and next year, still, there are Xena conventions. Jennifer and I turn up. I wasn't even in Xena. I mean, I made a few guest appearances. I directed a whole lot of them. Jennifer was in Xena twice. We still turn up. It's hilarious.
Amazing.
We have fans who are now, sadly, some of them are dying because they're so old, and then we've got all these new fans, 20-year-olds who have discovered it online. It's quite extraordinary.
Just one of those, just that sort of genre, that it's got like a massive cult following.
Well, I think with Xena especially, it's the two women. Are they gay or are they not? But they've become icons. They really are icons. Female power, all the rest of it. That was, and they always played on that. That was because also it worked for men too, because it was women in leather kicking ass. I mean, it's a complex thing that was going on, Yeah, but it's the show that lasted. I mean, Hercules, I think, got pretty good in its later seasons. It started to get very strange and wonderful, where Kevin got really sick at one point, had an aneurysm. There was no Hercules. So we had to think of ways to do shows without him in it. And one of the ways was that there was a crisis in the writers' room because Kevin Sorbo's gone missing. So suddenly we are playing the modern writers of the show that we're in, which is set in ancient Greece, prehistoric Greece, and sending up, lampooning the very writers of the show. And in that particular show, these writers, us, are thinking of crazy ideas which we thought of and then did, like one show where Hercules is turned into a piglet, so we called it Porcules.
Oh my God.
So there's a whole episode like that. So it got very...
It was like a spoof.
It did. It got incredibly meta. Really, really meta. And I think quite groundbreaking, but there we go. But then it just, the old two guys buddy thing, I think just naturally wears itself out. Also, when I was in America that first time, at the big party of the launch, and this writer, hey Michael, how are you? So hey, I just want to say a bit of advice. This show is going to do well, but when you get a script that calls for you to play your own evil twin, start looking for more work, because that's when the writers are running out of ideas, right? Yeah. But the thing is, I played my own evil twin about 3 times. I died about 4 times in that show and came back. So we did actually eke it out for quite a while.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one thing I want to loop back to. Yeah, you mentioned Kevin Sorbo and a brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
Was it a brain aneurysm, or was that when you got him with the sword?
Can you believe it? They gave us metal bloody swords. I cannot believe they did that for the first 9 episodes.
Well, they probably thought, oh, Michael's a safe bet. He's a fencing champion.
Yeah. I've seen the shot. What happened was, I'm doing a reverse horizontal slice, and he's ducking. I didn't go quite high enough, and he didn't duck quite low enough, and I gave him a cut that got him 9 stitches, I think. It's a surface wound. Give him needs a can of harden the fuck up. That's what he needed. But anyway, look, that was. But but he did have an aneurysm, and that was an amazing time, because he had a stiff arm, he got a massage, it dislodged a blood clot, it went into his brain, and he had a genuine aneurysm, and it nearly killed him. And I remember visiting him in LA, and there's this big guy, 6 foot something, broad shoulders, really muscular guy, and he was sitting in a dark room and had no energy, and it was very arresting. And we made these episodes without him. And then he came back, slowly building up his health, slowly. And then when he came back on set, on the first day, he was only allowed on set for 1 hour. And he would come on, and we all had to be quiet. And everything had to be, because it was a delicate thing.
Yeah.
And he came on, and I remember he was in a suit, because Kevin Sorbo had come back to the studio, you know what I mean? And he just looked small in the suit, this big man. And I remember choking up. I got such tears because all he had to do was walk on set and go, I'm back. That thing that Americans do. Hey, I'm back. So he did that. And then there was a pause and we cut. And then the first AD said, welcome back, Kevin, like this. And it was the most moving moment. And, while we're on the subject of Kevin, I have to say it is eternally sad to me that he's become a right-wing, Trump-voting conspiracy. He's just a complete... He's turned into that. So.
Yeah, well, you guys... I suppose a lot of the... because you were very tight together, so I suppose you had like a friendship at the time, but is it sort of transactional? Like, he moves on with...
It was a little bit transactional. We did get on really well. We really generated energy on the set, and we made a lot of funny gags that we, and we did all of that. And we didn't care about upstaging each other. All of that was very healthy, and I never really had a social life with Kevin. He wasn't a... his favourite sport was golf, which is like, oh my God. So, so that was one thing. And I don't mean to put down, actually I do, golf, come on. I mean, anyway.
You've never been a golf guy?
No. What is it? A pleasant walk spoiled.
I
remember having a conversation once with, the crew were standing around and Kevin. I said, Kevin, I think it'd be great if maybe golf would be better if they could maybe make it more interesting. And he went, okay, Michael, how would they do that? And I said, well, what if they, for example, what if the ball was bigger, and the hole was bigger, and what if you had some people trying to stop you getting the ball into the hole, and maybe you could have some people with you trying to get maybe there's another hole down the other end, and all the crew are laughing, and Kevin's still there going, that wouldn't be golf, Michael. And he's like no irony.
No irony.
There was no irony.
Completely
yeah,
lost.
yeah. But anyway, so so we never had that close friendship. But yeah, we did keep up quite a while afterwards. We emailed regularly, and I did some work with him in Vancouver in a show that he was doing. But when we got to the lockdown and he started sending me all this stuff about Jacinda that was all from QAnon and all that, and I emailed him, I said, Kevin, we're going to have to agree to disagree, or our friendship, such as it is, won't survive. And that's the last I've heard, really.
Yeah, well, there was like a comment he made last week about Carmela Heller. So at that point, even if you're friends, you have to Homer Simpson back into the hedge.
Yeah. And Lucy's got it really in for him. You know, she's like, no, she's very outspoken. Yeah. I mean, he has dug himself rather a big hole. And of course, it doesn't sound very good when you're complaining that you don't get work because you're conservative or Christian. That's not a good look, I don't think.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Some other names from that time. There may be stories, may not be. Ryan Gosling. You have anything to do with Ryan?
Oh, not really. Ryan was young Hercules, wasn't he? I think I met him a couple of times because who was playing? There was he was Ryan Gosling, and then young Lawless was played by, tip of my tongue, I'm having a senior moment here. It'll come to me. And I was playing some sort of street vendor. It was one of those funny moments. Hey, you look familiar, because we'd played, the roles. And I met him a couple of times. But no, it was that was a whole other world. They had their own world, young Hercules, and that was different to us. Yeah,
it's funny. I suppose there's no way of knowing that someone's going to go on to. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's occasions, but for the most part, there's no way of thinking this person's going to be one of the biggest stars in the. You
would never know.
Yeah.
No, you would never have known. I mean, it was just he was good though. I mean, he was good in what he did, of course. And who else was there? Oh, Kevin Smith, of course, the great.
Oh yeah, the late Kevin Smith. Yeah.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, he died. Must have been like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
He fell off like a lighting rig or something.
No, he was doing a movie in China on a set, and the thing about Kevin was he was everything. He was gorgeous to look at, had a physique of Adonis, a beautiful tenor voice, like the most gorgeous voice you've ever heard, and could really act. It's like, God, I was sick of him. But no, he was awesome, a great friend.
Yeah.
And he went and he just signed up to do a movie with Bruce Willis at the time. So he was going to finish his movie in China, then go to Hawaii. His family were going to meet him in Hawaii, all being looked after by the movie, and make this movie. Would have been his big break. But they'd wrapped him early on the movie. He went to look at another set, and he started climbing around on this. I think it must have been some sort of medieval Chinese set or something like that, but built for small Chinese people, not for him. And he fell through a set and bashed his head, and that's it. That was it. On the way down, he bashed his head, and he left us. And that was a real loss. That's the only time I felt anything that keenly for someone in the world at large, not a family member, that has gone. We couldn't believe it. And to this day, there are moments where I'll be looking at a play, thinking, we're going to cast this, who we're going to cast, and you go, oh my God, Kevin would have been good at this. Oh, where's Kevin?
Yeah, so sad, isn't it?
It was sad.
So sad. Sad in many ways, like a husband and a father, but also never got to sort of realise his potential as well.
Yeah, no, he didn't. Yeah. He was a silly boy in some ways. Yeah.
Oh, and so your wife Jennifer, she does some work as an intimacy coach as well.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly? Like, pardon my
I'll tell you what, the practice is fucking exhausting.
All right, I'll help you again tonight.
Oh, God. It's not the mirror on the stick again. Oh, no.
Okay, fine. I'll help.
I'll jump off the wardrobe. No, yes, she has. Look, this is an interesting story. I hope it's interesting. Back in the first iteration of Spartacus, which is around 2008 to 12, somewhere around there, we were doing Spartacus, and it had all these really full-on sex scenes in it.
Yeah.
The rule for that, again, Rob Tappert, he said to me, I came in to direct it, and he said, sir, here's what I'm going to say. When you think the camera should stop looking, you make it look. And I went, okay. So I did that. And my rule about the sex stuff was always to sit down with people, no matter how uncomfortable it was, you just talk about it like it's action, and you make a list of the shots. And I'd say to especially the women who are usually more vulnerable in those situations, I'd say, right, in this shot we're going to see your bum, we're going to see your left breast. We itemize it. And then I would make a list of all those shots, and I'd show them the list. I'd say, no, this is good, and we've been through it. It'll look like this, right. Now we'll sign it. I'll sign it. You sign it. Get your agent to sign it if you like. I'm committing to shooting only what we've agreed on. And that was that.
Also, shooting, not showing in the final edit. That's all you intend to shoot.
Well, the only and I said it. If by any mistake you get up and we happen to catch a bit more of whatever, I'll show you that and say that's going to be cut. You know, we've agreed, and that way we don't have any disputes on that level. Now, having a closed set, yes, and looking after especially young women who are being raped or whatever it is a trick, and we didn't have any of that in my day. You just went. The first time I ever kissed a woman on stage, no one told me. I just went, all right, Michael, you're a grown-up. It's not real. Keep your lips closed and fake it. And that's what we did. I had an experience in America making a film where I had to sit in a G-string with a really gorgeous, sexy young model straddling me, and we had this dialogue, but we couldn't. It was such a pokey thing. We couldn't move while they moved the camera. And I just thought, well, what do I do here? And no one's told, there's been no instruction about safety. There's nothing between us, no pads or anything like that. So I just asked her about her family and spent the time doing that. But my point is, so that's how it started. And then a woman in England, Ita, I can't remember her second name, she heard about us doing this because I was giving talks at Actors Equity saying, just get it in writing. I know there are times when auditions where someone's being asked to take their top off, and it's not reasonable at all, should not happen. None of that should happen. There should be no surprises. But get it in writing, and then you won't be surprised. So I was always, but Ita, she was very clear that there needed to be some work done. So she and Jennifer started a dialogue, and that's when a code of practice began to evolve about intimacy coordination, just like stunt coordination. Where are your safe areas? What's safe? What isn't? What are you prepared to show? How can we help you feel comfortable in a situation? Do you need something to protect your private parts while you're sitting on this person? Because nobody's going to see it. All of that stuff to make everything safe and filmable. And believe me, from an acting perspective, because I did Princess of Chaos, where I played Len Brown, the mayor, and had to do the sex scene that he was caught. Oh,
with Bevan Schwung and the Nazi
So I had to do that scene, and we had an intimacy coordination. It wasn't Jennifer because I didn't think that was politically correct. It was Tandy Wright, and so it was really easy. Can I touch you below the knee? Yep. Can I touch you above the knee here? Yep. There? No. Okay. There's where the limit is. And I had to be able to, because he kissed up her leg, and then it turned into sex. And so I said, well, I can kiss you here. Yeah. And so I had permission. So I could invest those kisses with the full bloody 9 yards of acting lust, without fear of overstepping the mark or without fear of... It was incredibly freeing. And from a directing point of view, I don't have to sit there and talk to women about their bits. It can be quite tricky. I can say, I want this, and we do it together in the room with the coordinator and the actors, and what's safe and what's the shot going to be. We do all that. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Are those scenes just the most awkward thing in the world?
Well, not anymore. They used to be, but not anymore.
Yeah.
And they are awkward, but after a while, it's just so fucking boring. Honestly, you're sitting around forever, and the camera's got to move, and it's really... it's
tedious.
It's kind of mundane.
Yeah.
It's not what people think. It's the same with action, big extended action scenes. They're not like that. They take time. Action is pieces. You shoot individual. Yeah, there might be a bit of a fight, but if you're going to shoot a close-up of the cup being smashed by a sword, that's going to take you half an hour to set up anyway. So it's not like it's all happening in real time. So yeah, it all gets a bit mundane, you know. But then again, what you see in that frame is always exciting.
Yeah. No, that's true. What about the awards and accolades? You and Jennifer have got plenty. Granted, you don't have a Kiwi Bank New Zealander of the Year.
She's the winner. She's Jennifer Ward Lealand.
But you both got what are the Queen's Honours birthdays?
Yeah, I've got an ONZM. Well, we both got an ONZM. I got mine first. She got her ONZM, and then she got promoted up to the next one. So now I've got to do the ducking and curtsying.
Yeah. How do you feel about them? Do they sit comfortably with you?
I was really
flattered.
You know what's amazing about it is when you get it, it's one of those times where it's only about people appreciating you for no other reason. Like you're not proving anything. You're not trying to get a job. There's nothing like that. It's just well done. And I think certainly for me, and I think for a lot of men, I can say a lot of men just want to be a good boy, you know, and that's really something. And the same with I got an Arts Laureate as well, New Zealand Arts Laureate Award. And on the night of that, it's just about, hey, you did really well. And here, in your appreciation, it's a very heartwarming thing. And I totally... I really enjoyed having both of those.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable, really, that you've both got them for your own merits.
Yeah, and Jennifer's the New Zealand of the Year came with a bit more responsibility. You know, she was prepared for that. There's a lot of stuff. You know.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I think she had to be very clear about her involvement with Te Reo Māori, and how she couldn't have the lived experience of a Māori wahine, but she, you know, loves the culture and really wanted to make inroads into understanding that and having it as part of her life. That was a big issue because, you know, some people weren't happy about that, but she had to make her because remember, in public positions, she's also the president of Actors Equity, and I don't want to go into it too much, but going back to the whole Hobbit catastrophe back in the early 2000s, Jennifer, as one of the public faces of that dispute, was, I mean, it was a terrible time. Like lots of insults, and people said terrible things about Jennifer and a whole bunch of actors, you know, because we were making a noise about wanting a realistic place in the world. So she didn't want to face that again. And also New Zealand of the Year, you know, speaking engagements, all of the things that come from that. I've over the years removed myself from that sort of stuff. I always thought I'm an actor, I should be able to do public speaking, I should be able to debate, I should be able to host shows or have interviews. And I was doing all of that and finding that I was getting so nervous and twisted up about them that I thought one day, I don't want to do this to myself anymore. I would get through them passably, but be miserable inside, you know, just get nervous. I'm not good I'm not good at being in front of people in that sort of way.
Well, and so you're more comfortable on stage being someone else than actually being.
Yeah. On stage, I'll do anything. I don't if it's justified, if it's for the part, I don't care. I'll show my bum.
Couldn't you do the public speaking and pretend it's a role? Like, Michael, this is your character. You're playing a 66-year-old.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thought, but I just don't know. No, it's always too. It's like teaching too. I can't really do that anymore because I just it's too hard personally for me, and also a lot of teaching. I don't sort of believe a lot of acting teaching much. I'm a more practically oriented person. I'm quite cynical about it. To be honest.
No, do you speak fluent Te Reo as well?
No, I don't. It's not my interest. My interest. I've done classical Greek, which is useless. It's not useless, but I'm more. That's just me, and I don't want to start feeling, you know, guilty because I don't speak it the way Jennifer speaks it. And I did go through that phase, but actually, it's just not me. I'm interested in ancient history. I'm interested in Shakespeare and philosophy and all of those things. And I'm not saying you can't be interested in those and not Te Reo Māori. Of course, you could do it all, but I've only got so much time in my life, and so that's my honest reaction to it. So,
yeah. And speaking of the time in your life, how do you feel about aging? You're 66 now. You're a bloody old age pensioner, gold card holder.
I've got my gold card. I get free trips to Waiheke.
You're looking great, and and mentally you're very, very sharp. How are you feeling about the whole?
I feel good.
transition?
I've had a knee replacement because my body, and again, I don't know if people will even remember these, but we did some shows in the past, man. I did physical theatre, like really threw myself around. I was as fit as a buckrat, and weight training, and just big sword fights with sprung steel swords and concrete floors, stair falls, all of that. So my body's taken a hiding over the years, and that's coming home to roost, I realise now. So, new left knee, elbow had to be reconstructed for years of break falls. Because, when you're doing a stage fight, at the end of a Shakespeare, where you've got a whirl the sword around and get the fucking thing done, you can't stop and have mattresses put down like the stunt guys do in movies. There's no stopping. There's no... it's all it is just full on for whatever that fight is. And I was really fit, and we used to make them big, these fights, Anyway, so I've realised that my body is... it's like the engine's running really well, but a couple of the panel beating's a bit tricky. So I've had that done, and my foot, I had a broken bone thing fixed. But, it's just age. And I did think on my 60th, that's when I did commit myself to doing as many plays a year as I can for the rest of my life, because that is my first love, and the thing that I most love is being on stage. The act of being on stage and taking an audience through that. In some ways, it's a bit like directing. It's a more limited stage. Directing, I'm quite good at the TV directing. I'm quite good at theatre directing, but in a way, I'm acting those parts in some ways. I don't know. It just sort of comes to me. But aging is just aging.
What do you love about being on stage so much? Is it the applause at the end of the night from doing your job well, or?
Well, that is obviously a reward, but no, it's just the feeling of communication. It's something to do with that. There's a power there. I mean, and it's a responsibility. And I say this all the time, that sort of acting is thousands of years old, and comes from, you're taking a bunch of separate minds and they're focusing into one area that's pretty rich. All of our individual existences sort of fuse together in a weird way in this one moment, and they're all focused, and where are they focused? They're focused on you, and you're focused on, it's something you should not take for granted and not undersell it. Even Tits and Bums comedy, oops, there go my naughty bits. Even those sorts of farces are absolutely crucial to the human condition. Happy face, sad face. It's just one face. It does all of it. And it's really important that we hit that properly. And that, that will, anything less just cheapens the experience. And the experience is, I think it's quite a holy experience, but I want to qualify it. I'm a rationalist, I'm an atheist. It's not that, it's the human spirit. The most human thing is coming together and focusing. You just look at a concert, look at a rugby match, look at anything like that. That's what these things, all of our separate consciousnesses come into focus, and those things become a richer moment for it. Because, not to get too lofty, I said this to some high school students not long ago, because at the end of the day, only you are going to do your dying for you. No one else is going to do that for you. And so these rich moments where you fully are cognizant of the power of all of humanity, that's what it is. And I'm privileged and lucky enough to be someone that can be in one of those conduit moments. Do you know what I mean? I know that's I really believe that. It's not just intellectual waffle. It's very real for me.
Oh, I can tell you're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
You really are, right? Like there's so much enthusiasm, and you think I believe you when you say you want to keep doing it for as long as you can. And often, even something you love, when you've been doing it for a long time, the interest in it can sort of wane somewhat. But I get the feeling with you it hasn't at all.
Not remotely. And if you look at specifically something like Shakespeare, look, I'm too old now, but I could easily play Hamlet again and still not get to the bottom of it and still be doing different things. Same with Macbeth, all of these things. It's not... Stephen Fry said something which I took issue with many years ago. He's probably forgotten it. Not that he's a friend of mine, but he did a stage show, and he'd been doing a whole lot of films, and he did a stage show, and he said offhand, one comment, he said, I got back on stage and I couldn't wait for the season to end doing the same thing every night. And I went, well, look, in my mind, if you're doing the same thing every night, you're in the wrong business. That's not what you do. Yes, it's the same role. It's different every single night. It's unique. I said this to these kids after King Lear at one time. The students came to see it, and I said, you've seen this show, but you'll never see this again. Even if you come to this production again, you'll never see what you saw tonight again, because it's gone. It's gone. So that is the essence of it. And again, it comes back to Shakespeare. He talks about, in The Tempest, he talks about these actors are all gone and they will leave all the things they've had, the cloud-topped towers, the great globe itself, and he means the globe of the world and the Globe Theatre, you know. They shall disappear and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. This is like life. It's an insubstantial pageant. And the rack he's talking about is a wardrobe rack. So you go in, like you do it with films all the time. We go into a location, everything's happening, we leave, you can't tell we've been there. And I find that philosophically potent. And theatre echoes life, theatre echoes the world. I mean, it's no accident it was called the Globe, because, you know, it's everything, you know, it's everything in the human condition. And in fact, I don't want to be boring about Shakespeare, but Hamlet has an amazing line where he realises the ghost of his dead father tells him that his uncle killed him, you know, that his dad's, the brother killed the brother. And it's devastating. Right at the beginning of the play, sort of second or third scene in, Hamlet's absolutely devastated. Almost goes mad by it, but manages to hang on. And the ghost then hears the rooster crow and says, I must leave. Adieu, adieu, remember me. Hamlet goes, remember thee, I, thou poor ghost, and clutches his head, while memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. Remember thee, yea, from this moment. And I say to these students, what's a distracted globe? And they go, it's the theatre. It's this brain. It's the theatre. While memory, it's the brain. It's Shakespeare going, it's here. It's the globe of the world, and it's the Globe Theatre. And what do actors need to learn lines? Memory. So that line also means, as long as actors remember these lines, I will remember you. Pretty profound, don't you reckon?
Well, my relationship with Shakespeare is probably similar to your relationship with golf.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough.
But you did have me leaning forward in that. Like,
yeah, there you go.
You're just so passionate about it, aren't you?
Well, I am passionate about it, and I think passion is crucial. You have to be passionate, and look, I've been, again, I don't believe in fate particularly, but I'm so lucky to be here doing this. This is, you know, so I'm never going to I'm never going to phone it in.
Yeah, I can't see you slowing down either.
No, well, unless, you know, they cut my legs off or something. But, you know, no, I'm feel pretty fit, yeah, and yeah, as I say, it's keeping your brain going. You know, the brain is the thing. You know, the body feeds the brain. The brain is the thing. You know, and that's. I think if I'm of the opinion if my brain starts going and if I know it, then give me as many drugs as you can and send me on my way.
What about just an earpiece?
Yeah, an earpiece. Can you imagine it? Oh my God! Actors with earpieces getting told their lines.
Yeah.
Oh no! But I do know a lot of actors my age, especially men. I know they tend to avoid theatre now because they're scared of forgetting the lines, and that is a pressure. But for me, I'm the opposite. I'm going bring it on until I really can't do it anymore. But at the moment, so these lines that we're learning at the moment for in other words, they're just going in like that, you know. But then
muscle memory.
It's muscle memory. It is. It's muscle memory. Definitely that. There is a way of getting used to things. And the TV thing, where you're learning on Hercules, I just look at the scene in the morning and learn it in the makeup chair. Learn all the scenes. Yeah. And I see people, that's how you need to do it.
Yeah.
Because there are so many lines over the course of the year, you're never going to retain it. They go into this shallow little basin in your brain and then they go off again.
Hey, this has been so much fun.
Good.
It's been really nice to connect.
Good. Yeah. We enjoyed it a lot.
Great.
I feel like I've rattled on quite a bit, but
no, it's been great. I could sit here listening to these yarns all day. And when you flip into character, it's like, this guy can really act.
Oh well, yeah. Well, there's quite a lot more on, but
Hey, this has been brilliant. Just before we go, my show sponsors are the Generate KiwiSaver scheme, and they've challenged me to give $20,000 in total to charity by spreading the word about the importance of KiwiSaver advice and planning for the future. So I've got a few questions here, and if you can answer them, Generate will donate $500 to a charity of your choice.
Okay, great.
What would that be? Or do you want to answer at the end? Or
oh gosh,
is there a charity that's dear to you? Or
well, I think it would be appropriate to whatever is the Alzheimer's or dementia charity.
Brilliant.
I think that's appropriate that we do that, seeing as that's what I'm, talking about as well, and also we're getting into this show, which is, I don't know anyone that I know of my age who hasn't got someone, a family member or a friend who is having a problem with it, So, and I know that, here's the thing, my mentor, Raymond Hawthorne, who was a titan of the theatre back in the day, an absolute muscular, really, and taught me everything I know. He's in a facility now, and he remembers me and all the past, but he doesn't remember the last 10 minutes. He can't recall anything recently. You watch this and,
it's heartbreaking.
But he's lucky he's in a good place, but so let's do that.
I think that's a great charity. Okay, Michael Hurst, are you a spender or a saver?
I'm a bit of both. I know when to spend it, but I know when to save. My wife's a saver. Can I just say that?
I think that's good. As long as there's one sensible one in the relationship.
Yeah. Which means I'm a cautious spender because I have to ask the control tower first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What has been your biggest money mistake? There must have been some good ones during the Hercules
There's
days.
one mistake which I started a little company with a friend who's alas no longer a friend because he just took all the money. That was a big mistake. I think I lost, I don't know, a couple of $100,000 or something.
Fuck.
Yeah, it just became something that I kept. I was the one that had the money, and it just became something that sort of generated itself. And after a while, I had to just cut all ties. Yeah. So that was my biggest mistake, actual proper mistake. I think I have bought a few unfortunate pairs of trousers in the time, but that was the big one. Yeah.
Who do you talk to when you have questions about money?
Oh, we've got a company. We've got some people who look after us.
Oh, like a money manager, financial advisor,
a funds manager. Because we have some investments and property on Waiheke and it's always good to, and they're great with the tax because the tax situation is, we both like to we don't like to owe anything. We just like to be very clean.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. Yeah.
What's something fun you can see yourself doing in retirement? Oh, I know the answer to this.
I'm doing
What's retirement?
Sort of doing it already.
Yeah. I think
actually, there is a bit of stuff. There is some travelling I would like to do. That's me. There is some. I've done quite a bit of travelling, but not in a sort of. I've done it with work usually, or feeling I'm on a bit of a budget. I would love to. There's some places I want to see. I want to go to Finland. I want to do these things. So there are some specific things like that, and they are to do with travel, I think. Exotic places.
If you could pick anywhere to retire in New Zealand, where would it be, and why?
Well, I think it's going to be in our apartment up on Great North Road. I'm sorry to say, but I really love Auckland. I've been here since 1979. I've only ever lived in the centre of it, so that's a hard one because I just don't even think about going into any retirement place or anything like that. Just going to live my life here until it stops, I guess.
And what do you love most about being a Kiwi?
I think I like the directness and the down to earth thing that goes on. I sort of alluded to it before with that coming from a convention. There's a sort of dry. We share it a little bit with the Aussies. There's a sort of dry, kind of tacit something. It's not. I don't like the tall poppy syndrome. It's not that. It's something. It's just really. We all know when someone's being a dick.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
We're good at smelling bullshit.
And it's that's right. And you just can see this thing where you just. I see it a little bit sometimes when I'm doing TV shows. I won't name any names or anything, but you'll see an actor being. And, I'm sitting there as a director, and then I'll look at some of the crew, and you'll see them going, this, and you just go, yeah, but, yeah. I think that's...
Yeah, I agree. You can do it with a look, like, is this guy for real?
Yeah. I really, I like that. There's a kind of sense of humour about life that I think that may become more and more difficult as the world turns. I don't know. That's a whole other discussion.
Hey, well, thanks for answering those. Yeah, $500 to an Alzheimer's or dementia charity. Done.
Yeah. That's the New Zealand Alzheimer's Foundation. I think it'll be. We'll look it up. Yeah.
Hey,
great.
Thanks so much for your time today. Is this your first sort of long form podcast deep dive into your life?
Yeah.
Oh, it's been an honour, mate. Thank you very much.
Great. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, likewise.
Got a bit of everything in there.
You're going to get in trouble for the intimacy stuff, I reckon.
No. What is she going to do?